Greetings, conscious entrepreneurs, and welcome to the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talk, where we talk about life, love, and business. And we're going to start while we're waiting for people to come into the room with a little 3-minute motivation hack from our brother Denzel Washington. So come on in, come on in. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Alita, Brother Lamont. I see y'all. So we're going to listen to this. And then we're going to get started. Because what I thought we would talk about today was how to build organizations. Good morning, Mom. Where we set Nubia Flow. Where we set the right tone at the top. That seems to be a challenge for a lot of us as entrepreneurs. And one of the services that I provide as a business consultant is doing corporate culture analyses. Where I will go in and based on some of the results and some of the tests that I perform, I will tell you how your leadership team or how the implementation of your corporate policies or maybe the lack of identification of your stakeholders impacts the actual tone at the top of the business and how your people under you are impacted either to execute incorrectly, to execute correctly. You get the picture. But we're going to talk about that a little bit today, just so that we understand that as conscious entrepreneurs with smaller businesses and how that tone actually impacts our ability to be effective and to make money. Because what we don't want our organization, nor do we want our leadership team or ourselves as executives to be where ideas go to die, right? And so a lot of that is because of the tone at the top and the tone that we set as we're executing what may come down from our investors, our stakeholders, whatever. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Good morning, Brother Kevin. But before that, let's listen to this motivational video. It's just 3 minutes while we're waiting for people to come into the room. Hope y'all can hear it okay. There we go.
I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living." Fail. Here's my second point about failure. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. I'll say it again. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. My wife told me this great expression. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. Les Brown's a motivational speaker. He made an analogy about this. He says, imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfulfilled potential. The ghost of the ideas you never acted on. The ghost of the talents you didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They say, we came to you because you could have brought us to life, they say. And now
so
we have
deep.
to go to the grave together. So I ask you today, how many ghosts are going to be around your bed when your time comes? So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances professionally. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test was 9 dots, and you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 9 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. So
welcome. Come on in, everyone.
Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail.
Good morning, Porn Praise 2, Fab Consulting. Good morning.
Big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams. And they ultimately fuel disappointment. So have dreams, but have goals. Life goals, yearly goals, monthly goals, daily goals. And understand that to achieve these goals, you must apply discipline and consistency. In order to achieve your goals, you must apply discipline, which you have already done, And consistency every day, not just on Tuesday and miss a few days. You have to work at it every day. You have to plan every day. You've heard the saying, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. Hard work works. Working really hard is what successful people do.
I wanted to play that and start with that today because we're talking about tone at the top, right? And it's important that we set the right tone even at the top of our day. How do you begin your day? Do you roll over and just grab your phone and start checking your social media, checking your email? What kind of tone and intention do you set with your day? Do you set it with praise and adoration, exercise? Those are some of the things that I do in the morning. Praise, adoration, exercise. And I try to do that before I touch any social media, before I touch any emails. There are occasions where there might be something that is emerging, but I try very, very hard to make sure that I do those things to set my tone at the top of the day and then even at the end of the day so that I go to sleep on top of something that is going to help me wake up with the right tone, right? So before I go to bed, I run through a list of things that I'm grateful for. Sometimes I write it down. I keep a really cute notebook on my nightstand, and I'll jot those 10 things down. What happened today that I am most grateful for? And so I set that tone so that as I go to sleep, my subconscious mind is rolling around with what it is that I set for it prior to laying down. So being intentional. If you all were on the, I don't know, say something in the chat if you were with us last night, myself and Sabrina Kane, where we talked about spirituality and business and relationships. And like she said, we just let it drip. I thought it was a very, very beautiful conversation. And I think it's amazing because what we talked about was having your circle of gods and goddesses that you rotate with. People who, when you contact them, are going to talk to you about things on a godlike level, right? You can go to her page. Let me put her social media in the chat and you can go there. She actually posted it last night. And I love her saying at the end, I got to start using this because this happens to me all the time. She said, look, you got some good information, some good conversation. Don't just chip and dip me. Go buy something, go follow me, leave something in the chat. For me, I let people chip and dip me because I come on here and I talk and I run my mouth and people end up, they don't follow, they don't say anything, they don't go buy anything. But I'm going to start using that. I want y'all chip and dip me today. Make some comments at the end. Share the post. Go buy something. Anyway, I don't know what y'all drinking this morning. This morning I got a green drink. This is spinach, celery, apple juice, and ginger is what this is. It's actually really good. And I just wanted to put that in my body first thing this morning. I'm a ceremonial tea and coffee girl. Y'all think y'all know that. But this morning I decided to put the green drink in there. And I don't do caffeinated coffee. I do decaf coffee and decaf teas. You all know I drink the Mandela Masala Chai from Calabash Tea and Tonic because it's a really strong bodied Thai with a rooibos base that is caffeine free. So I love those kind of things. And I tend to decaffeinate my coffee as well. Also, some of you probably have seen somebody, he says, Brother Lamont said, I'm going to wear my Mode t-shirt today while doing business. Yes, and take a picture, Brother Lamont, post it, tag me on it so that everybody can see it. Don't chip and dip me, y'all. Do something. Look, go out there, order something. You can pick up your commemorative Elijah coin. Go to sajdahhouse.com. use the discount code. I have it here in the chat, HEM4847. You all probably seen some of the videos that I posted either on this IG or on the Sajdah House IG, where we're just showing, you know, the progress of the project. We're right there. We at the finish line. We're getting close. Also, you all probably also know, since y'all are here, that my IG page got hacked. The Mode Today page got hacked. So we're using this. It's interesting because I was already coming up with the Mode Today universe. And so it just pushed me into doing that brand. And so share this with people. I have a post on my page where I tell people that I got hacked and what page to go to. And I ask you to share that in your story and post it so we can get the followers built back up. I think I'm having a lot of fun just seeing, you know, the following and the followers build back up. I do a lot of international podcasts. Things like that tend to happen, but it's okay. You know, let's talk about ideas a little bit. And many of us have organizations, or we are people. Thank you, Fab Consulting. You said you got hacked. They got you a couple months ago. Yeah. No, I understand. For me, I do a lot of international podcasts, and if you know anything about doing work internationally, social media is king, because that's how they stay connected to the rest of the world. It's becoming that way for us, especially in the midst of a pandemic. And they like to hack and impersonate people. You know how you see them saying that they're different people. I tell a story. It's so funny how I was on an African podcast and somebody got on saying that they were Brother Ben X. And clearly it wasn't Brother Ben X, because when they let him in to ask a question or to allegedly give me the greetings, he said, "Hello, these brought out Ben X." But that happens. So anyway, we just have to stay pliable. We have to stay nimble. Welcome, Create Heaven at Home. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. So I want to talk about ideas, because I learned a long time ago I decided a long time ago that I didn't want to be, nor did I want to build an organization where ideas go to die, right? You heard Denzel Washington in the clip where we started off talking about, imagine your ideas surrounding you on your deathbed saying, "Look, we came to you because we thought you would give us an opportunity to come alive, but instead we have to die with you." I think that's a really interesting analogy. I think another thing that happens is that when we get those divine inspirations, ideas that are really divine from another level, have you ever taken so long to do it or didn't do it, and then next thing you know, somebody else is doing it? You find yourself mad because you're mad and jealous of that person, because you're like, you know, how they gonna do my idea? I had that idea 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Well, maybe it was something that Allah really wanted to make happen. Maybe it was something that was really going to be impactful to what is important to him. And maybe he just gave it to somebody else because you didn't do it. So the next question you have to ask yourself is, why do these ideas come to me and die? Why do these ideas come to my organization and die? And I've done analyses on companies where we talk about what is the corporate culture, what is the tone at the top. And I ask us, though, to do that internally. What is our tone? What is the tone at the top of our head that allows us to either kill an idea or to bring an idea to fruition? You can tell the culture or the tone of the top at the top of an organization by how effectively they roll out ideas, how effectively they make a difference and make a change. But we can also tell the tone of ourselves at the top of our head, our brain, what's going on in our mind, by how effective we roll out ideas, how effective we say be, and it is. If we want to do something, if we say, you know what, I want to do something with the old copper from the messenger's home, and now I'm holding something that used to be an old piece of copper. So what that says to me when I evaluate myself, I evaluate my ability to make an idea come to fruition. And then I also evaluate the time it took, what resources I had to use. That's part of evaluating your own tone at the top. And it starts with identifying your thoughts, your stakeholders, what's important to you. It starts with ethics. It starts with making your word bond. See, what happens a lot of times in organizations is that we may think it's not the case, but a lot of times we have bad ethics. And what do I mean by that? I don't necessarily mean that they're robbing people or that there's fraud being committed, but what I do mean is that there might be fraud of the mind created, meaning that perhaps you have taken the organization off the focus of the stakeholder and onto the focus of you, or onto the focus of your goal or goal that you set up. What do we mean by that? For example, is your word bond? And is it bond to yourself? So if you say to yourself, I'm going to get up and work out this morning, or I'm going to make sure I work out today. Do you lie to yourself, or do you say, you know what, I told myself, see, this is what I do. I told myself that I was going to get up and work out today, and I'm going to do it. If I'm tired, whatever I got to do, the same energy that I would put forward to try to make my word bond to somebody else. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Shantex. The same energy that I would use to move forward to make my word bond to somebody else, I make sure that my word is bond to myself. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that when ideas come to me, whether they come to me from divine inspiration or whether they come to me from you, from anybody else, it's not, the idea doesn't come to me to die. So if you bring me an idea, I respect the fact that you have the idea. If it's something that I can't do, or I'm not interested in, or I'm not feeling, I say, you know what? I'm not really feeling that. I'll let you know what the real situation is or whatever. But then I try to send you on your way without killing the idea. Because once you get your body and your mind in the routine practice of accepting that when ideas come to you, they're going to die, you will kill ideas over and over and over again. And so pretty soon, no one will come to you. You will be ineffective. Not only will you kill your own ideas, you're killing the ideas of other people. What is your tone at the top? What is your tone at the top of your mind? What are your ethics to yourself? What are your ethics to the stakeholders that you claim to serve? What are your ethics right here in your head? What are you doing? What are you doing to make your word bond? Have you gotten to the point where having people worship you is more important than making your word bond? Assalamu alaikum, freedom, justice. Have you gotten to the point where making sure that people bow down to you is more important than the stakeholders that you were hired to serve? Think about that. Because that happens in a lot of companies. You know, the CEO, the CFO, the directors, the managers. You can take a good employee and make them a bad manager because they will become a manager, and then all of a sudden their worship, their vanity, people worshiping them, people doing what they say, them wielding power, them creating their fiefdom is more important than the stakeholders that they're serving, than the goals of the corporations. You can also create a policy or a sales goal as a leader of your organization that might be more aggressive than what your leadership team can handle. And unless we give, and they're willing to listen to us, give them tools on how to go out and execute those sales goals, they may go out and magnify the inordinate view they have of themselves and end up abusing people because they're bulldozing over folks just trying to get through that sales goal. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about? Put that in the chat if you've experienced this. You see a good employee become a bad manager. They start to operate off of ego. The department is their fiefdom. They're looking for everybody to worship them, to bow down to them. They only support the ass kissers and the people who are willing to give up their complete freedom in order to be of service to them. And when I say complete freedom, they no longer are ethical. They only are doing whatever it is that we say that they do. So we don't get the feedback that we need. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we take a good employee, we make them a bad manager, we give them lofty sales goals without any tools, and they don't have the tools to implement those sales goals. What are they going to do? They're going to abuse your customers. They're going to abuse your environment. Kevin said, yes, indeed. They're going to abuse your environment because they don't know what they're doing. So what I'm saying to us, and we talk about this all the time on all my shows, when we get out up over our skis, assalamu alaikum, Brother Jamil, when we get out up over that, what do? We have to then find other tools that help us to implement the sales goals, the ideas that align with what? With our ethics and our morality. See, you don't go out and say, let me meet the goal by any means necessary. I know somebody who was a really good salesperson, and she was working in an organization, one of these telecommunication companies, and she was an executive, and she had these goals. This is such a common story. They gave her really aggressive goals, okay? And what I later had the benefit of coaching her from a hindsight standpoint was, I said, when you get an aggressive goal, you have to figure out what are your negotiables, what are your non-negotiables, but how are you going to get there within the moral confines and the ethical confines that you've defined for yourself. So in her case, though, she was the victim of another executive that she was reporting to, and that executive team, that department became that person's fiefdom. What I mean by fiefdom, it meant that they had to do whatever he said. They had to literally almost worship him. They had to kiss his butt. They had to do whatever he said. And it was really awkward. It was very difficult to work in. And if they didn't meet their sales goals, they knew that they could either get fired, their bonus could get impacted, and the person evaluated them by how well they related to them, not how well they related to the sales goals and the overall morals and culture that they had been charged with maintaining and implementing. So in this particular case, she got a really aggressive sales goal, and she went out and she bulldozed over her people, over her customers. She did whatever she had to do. She threw everything else. She did it by any means necessary. She threw the morals, the ethics, the culture that she had been assigned to support. She threw all that out the window to make this goal. And she was so happy. She thought that they would love it. But ultimately what happened was a person who was over the person she was reporting to came into the office and fired her. And she was so livid. She was so upset. And when she came and talked to me, she said, how could they do this? They did this because I'm a black woman, da, 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 da. And as I started to peel back the layers, and I said, you know, racism is ingrained in everything that happens in this culture, in this country. It's part of the fabric. It's part of the culture. Racism, sexism, the isms, right? We know that. But I told her, I said, what I see here is that as an executive, you were charged with the responsibility to support your stakeholders that had already been identified to you. You were charged with the responsibility to support a certain corporate culture that you did not do, nor did you support those stakeholders. You also were charged with a responsibility to not only meet the sales goal, but to do it in a manner that supported the style dictated by the ethics and morals of the executive team. And you didn't do that. So I wholeheartedly agree that you should be fired because you violated the tone at the top. The tone at the top of your department was something that contributed to the fraud and the hypocrisy of your salespeople. So even though you made your sales goals, you created fraudulent and hypocritical underlings underneath you. And so I totally agree with the senior leadership team that came in and let you go. And she was appalled. I said, because you had your eyes on this one person that you were reporting to. That one person who would buy you a bottle of champagne. That one person who pimped you out, basically. And guess what? They still got their job. They still got their bonus. But you're the one who got fired. Why? Because you bulldozed over everything. That's right, Sister Aletha. You made the goals, but at what cost? So they promoted you to an executive, but at what cost? You probably were a bad employee you were probably a good employee that got promoted and became a bad manager, or you were a good manager that got promoted and became a bad executive because you didn't have the tools, nor did you have your own personal morals and ethics. And then she got mad. And I said, here we go. Check this out. As a manager, you were good. And so they decided, we're going to promote her. We're going to make her a part of the executive team. She's going to sit with the vice presidents, and this particular company, their executive structure went, vice president, then they had the directors, the managers, and then their supervisors and staff. And then above the vice presidents was the senior executive team. So they have a few levels. So she was at the vice president level. And I told her, I said, is it moral and ethical for you to agree that you're going to uphold the way the company wants you to manage your stakeholders, identify your stakeholders, manage them, and value them, and then not do it? Is it ethical and moral of you to meet your goal only because you're trying to find favor with somebody else right there at the executive level? And so she was like, so we went through some of the sales tactics that she used, some of the ways in which she managed her staff, and she was able to see. And I said, look, if I came in and evaluated the tone at the top, or evaluated the culture of your department that you ran, and the number of people that you had that either committed fraud, who became hypocritical to the organizational oaths, who either became absentee employees, or who joined you in this sort of bulldozing, egoic type of manner of operation, would tell me that is the tone at the top. That is you. This is what you're creating. Because a lot of people, believe it or not, will do anything for a paycheck. And so for you, you can't take advantage of that. Folks need that paycheck. They got children at home. They got mortgages. They got car notes. A lot of people don't have the ethical standards or the understanding to know, hey, I got to walk away from this if it's violating my ethics. And that's what's more important. Well, because see, if you had instilled certain characteristics within your team, then your team would check you when you get out of line. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. See, because we're building these organizations, and sometimes we wonder why we get this revolving door of non-compliance. Why do we get these people who really, you can look in their face and see the hypocrisy in their face? They ain't a bit more thinking about that job or the stakeholders. They just want to check. And the minute you turn your back, they clock out, they leave, they steal time, they go hide in the bathroom, they spend all day on their cell phone. Why? There's something happening at the tone at the top. Now, check this out. Some of us as executives, we think, I got to keep these people around because I need help. You know, I never worry about anybody that leaves an organization that I'm running, because I know that if I strive the best of my ability to have the right tone at the top of my head, that God will always send me. The energy of the universe that I am attracting will always send me what I need. I remember when I first started working on Sajdah House, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told me, don't worry about where your help is going to come from. And I said, yes, sir. And so I get other people who worry about it. Well, why ain't somebody doing this? And what about that? I said, that ain't my help. I'm not worried about it. So what I'm saying to you is that you run your race, not worrying about who's on this side or who's on that side. What's your technique? How are you pumping your arms? How are you leaning? How are you putting your heel to the ground first? How are you handling that? How are you running? How are you shooting your shot? What are you doing? And then you have to know that that is what's going to give you the staying power in your career, the staying power in your organization. First, you have to identify your stakeholders. You have to identify what type of cultural environment you want. I'll give you an example. My assistant and I talk about the reason why I hire an assistant, obviously, and I don't even like to call them assistants, but just for lack of a better word, because I need to buy back some of my time. Okay? When you reach certain levels in the corporate world or in the business world or just in life, you have to start figuring out what to do to buy back some of your time. A lot of things I can do myself. I spent a lot of years as a one-woman band. And so a lot of things I know how to do. I know how to do PR. I know how to do marketing. I know how to do, sales, and there's a bunch of stuff like that. I know how to do it. But how much time do you have as an executive? You only have a certain amount of time. And so you want to buy back some of your time so that you can spend more of your energy receiving that inspirational revelation that comes to you than necessarily doing these tasks that may take up time. Also, it puts you in a position where you can offer opportunity to other people. See, that's where the magic starts to happen. When I say to somebody else, hey, here's an opportunity within my organization or within what I'm working on, and I want to see you flourish. I want to give you this chance to work out. See, that was the one thing that I saw missing when I was coming up. I felt like I was always behind the 8 ball when I compared myself to people in the corporate world that I was working with, because it always seemed that they were being put in a position so that they could work out. Whereas with me, I had to come to the table as a one-man band, one-woman band, if you will. What's the difference? Well, the difference is that then you get a whole lot of ideas flowing. You get the benefit of unity, which also multiplies your efforts. You get the benefit of like minds. You start to build a circle. And look, whenever you need something, what should you always do? You should always give. You should always give. You should always offer opportunity to somebody. Offer an opportunity. My idea is to always be an asset and to give people a chance, an opportunity to do something for themselves. Okay? She said, Create Heaven at Home said, the first time I paid somebody, I was happier than her. I had so much joy knowing I provided an opportunity. That is absolutely correct. But not only providing an opportunity, but providing an opportunity that you never know may resurrect somebody or save somebody or help somebody. There have been opportunities that I've been tapped for, and I was tapped for that opportunity when I felt like I was on the ground. I was on the floor. I was sad. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I might have been in a position where I was making good money, but I was teetering on functional depression because I knew that there was something else that I wanted, and somebody tapped me for an opportunity. and in them tapping me for that opportunity or putting me in front of that cash flow or that flow of checks gave me a chance to work out. And so I always want to be in a position to provide that for someone else. And so you also then have to be responsible for the tone at the top of your mind, because now you're responsible for making sure that you keep your word bond to that person. So I try to be very careful to make sure that my word is bond. I would rather get a speeding ticket than not make my word bond. Like if I say I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, I'm going to get there. And if I can't, you will find me calling. So I was going back to my assistant. One of the cultural policies that we have is that if I'm busy, even if I'm busy on the phone or doing things, and I got to shoot her a quick text and say, hey, I'm on this Zoom call with such and such, but can you do me a favor and make sure that you reach out to such and such so-and-so and remind them about something. Just because I text you don't mean you text that person. And I've had assistants I worked with before who people say, I never received a phone call from that person. That person always texted me. But that's not part of my cultural tone. So now I make sure that I'm explicit with my assistants and I say to them, pick up the phone. Texting and email is your supplemental communication strategy. But your primary communication strategy is verbal or oral. And that's important to me. Why? Because I like to be hands-on with people. I'm a people. I like people. I like talking to people. I like connecting with people. I like tuning in to people. I like vibing with people. And so because I can't vibe and tune and connect with everybody, I like for you to touch them because I can't. So pick up the phone. Now, if they don't answer and they're busy, you can follow up with a text. You can even follow up with an email after the conversation and say, hey, in summary, this is what we discussed today. Here were the takeaways. You can do that in email. But the way that initial contact that I want is for there to be a phone call. So call that person. Hey, Sister Sajdah just wants to confirm the meeting for today. Hey, Sister Sajdah wanted me to reach out to you because she's interested in inviting you to a meeting. So that personal hands-on touch that I may not be able to give, even if I'm busy and I'm on a call and somebody's calling me and I say, oh man, they must need something, but I'm on this Zoom. We all live in a Zoomiverse now. I'll text my assistant and say, hey, can you reach out to so-and-so, so-and-so? Let them know that I'm on a Zoom, make sure everything is okay, and let them know I'll get back with them. That's important. Aletha's on here, and she and I were fortunate to be, and Brother Jamil knows this too, we were blessed to, I think, to be around and to work with one of the greatest assistants that I've ever seen, and that's Sister Sophia, who used to be, at one point, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's assistant. And what I always loved about Sister Sophia is that she was always amazing because she didn't take away or add too much. And this doesn't, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying anything negative about anybody else, because his current assistant is great too. But we learned under Sophia, who taught us that you see but you don't see, you hear but you don't hear. So we were taught how not to be too nosy, how not to intrude or invade people's privacy. We were taught how to identify and value our stakeholder. We were taught how to communicate in a way so that we wasn't putting too much yeast on something, but we wasn't withholding information. We were taught to reach out and put our hands on people and touch things, as opposed to being standoffish. We were taught to choose our words in a certain way. Even when she called you, her tone was always a certain way so that And even if it was bad news or good news, she always had a certain tone. She was always careful not to rough us up. Even if she had to relay something not so pleasant to us, she didn't rough us up. Why am I saying all these things? Because that was the tone at the top that she had and that she established with us. And so I'm saying that we as leaders have to make sure that we are establishing the right tone at the top. So if somebody gives you an idea and you're supposed to take it to your senior level executive team, you don't just throw it under the bridge. You don't just ball it up and toss it out the window and say, I'm not dealing with that anymore. Right? What do? You do what she taught us to do. You do something with that. Whether you might just give it back to the person and say, you know what, I just don't think, and I do this with people all the time. People come to me with ideas. I may say to them, hey, let me sleep on it. Let me pray on it. And I may come back to them and say, you know what, it's just not something that I think I can do right now. Or it's not something I feel like I can support right now. Or it's not something I can support. I can't give it the time, whatever. But I try to always make sure that I'm giving it the right level of respect. And I'm not the place where ideas and feelings and emotions go to die. At the same time, part of establishing your tone at the top, your tone at the top of your organization, your tone at the top of your mind is how do you handle misunderstanding and disappointment? If somebody, first of all, how do you handle information that comes to you? Do you verify it? Do you go to the source? Do you go around and slander the person and talk negatively about them? Or do you say, hey, you know what? I just wanted to sit down with you because I was told something the other day that I just want to get clarity about. And some of those are the best conversations in the world. Because you may find that you and that person have a synergy and you're more committed to one another than what you believed. But perhaps this person you were talking to had an issue with the level of commitment that they saw between you. So they went out and interpreted it incorrectly. How do you deal with that as a leader? How do you deal with that? How do you handle somebody that does something wrong or has a misunderstanding? We talked a little bit last night on the spirituality and business session where we talked about with Sabrina Kane, we talked about trust. And I was defining different levels and different types of trust. And trust is an interesting thing because a lot of us just look at trust in one big bucket, right? We look at, because we're always in fight or flight. So we're always looking to see, is this person going to hurt me or not? And that's how we deal with stuff. You know, is this person malicious? Is this person trying to hurt me? Is this person trying to tear down my definition of myself? That's usually how we look at trust. But really, you have to look at trust in a multifactorial way. There are people that I trust emotionally. I trust that when a situation comes to them, that I'm going to be in alignment with the emotions that they convey based on that situation. There are people that I don't trust emotionally. That doesn't mean I don't like that person. There are friends of mine that I know that if you bring them something negative about me, you might get beat up. But then there's other people that I know who I may say, well, you know what? You can bring something to them negative about me or whoever, and they're going to side with you. They two-faced it. There are some people that I trust spiritually. I trust their spiritual judgment on things. There are some people that I don't trust their spiritual judgment on things. It doesn't mean that I don't like them. Maybe they just believe differently than I do. And so I know I can't necessarily trust their spiritual judgment. One when I go back to the emotions, maybe some people are a little bit more high strung than I am. And so I may not send you to that person because that person may be so high strung and so hyped. And right now I know the situation is so sensitive that that type of bulldozing and aggressiveness doesn't have any place in a particular project I'm working on. So I may not trust that person because I know that's their go-to emotion. Doesn't mean I don't like them. It doesn't mean that I think that they're malicious. It just means I don't trust what they're going to say. I don't trust how they're going to handle things. So you have to evaluate things on a more granular level when you're functioning on a godlike level. It's like that mustard seed, right? When they say, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. Well, I used to in my webinars bring mustard seeds and pass them around, because that mustard seed also represents the level of detail you have to pay attention to in your communication, the level of detail your intentions have to have, the level of detail that your work should have, the level of detail all the way down to the size of a mustard seed of your morality. I ask the question, who are you when no one's looking? Who are you really when no one's looking? What is your tone at the top? Who are you when no one is looking? Those are important questions for us to ask ourselves as we are developing the tone at the top of our organizations and the tone at the top of our mind and at the top of our lives. Okay? So I'm gonna wrap this up. We started off talking about tone at the top. What is the tone at the top of your organization? And I do corporate cultural analysis, where I can look at the effectiveness of your organization or the ineffectiveness of your organization and reverse engineer it and dial it back to the tone or a particular tone at the top of your organization that is impacting everything else downhill. It could be paralyzing your organization. It could be what is motivating your organization to do very well. It could be why some things you do good and other things you don't do good. It's the same way with us as individuals. How effective are we? See, as individuals, it gets harder because we have to be honest with ourselves. If we find ourselves stuck and we say, man, you know what? I'm trying to lose this weight and I'm at a plateau. Well, what is it? Maybe it's that Sajdah bean pie ice cream you eating every night. So try eating it every other night. But we got to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves because the tone at the top is critical. Who are we? Who are the stakeholders that we've been hired to uphold? What is the culture that we've been given responsibility to implement? How much of our ego and how much of our personal efforts, if you will, are tied up and mingled and have dwarfed the stakeholders that we were hired to support and the culture that we were hired to implement? Has our ego dwarfed that? Have we gotten more into the vanity and more into people doing what we say? Are we good employees and good soldiers who became bad managers and bad lieutenants? Or good managers that became bad executives? Why? Because all of a sudden that power got good. It got to feeling good. People start talking to us and kissing up to us because they're followers. And all of a sudden we create a little kingdom in our department. And our department kingdom now is all about us and what we say. We done forgot all about the regular stakeholders. We done forgot all about what the executive leadership team told us to do. We done forgot all about what the CEO told us to do. It's all about what? I told you to do, and how I told you to do what you do, how I told you to look, how I told you to talk, what I told you to say. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. Hold on. Is that the right tone at the top? Is that the right tone at the top of our organization? And is that the right tone at the top of our mind? So what we do is we identify the stakeholders. We figure out, how do we monetize our authentic selves? How do we allow people to be free in the organization? See, when I walk into organizations and I see people are not free to give feedback, people are not free to reach their own goals and dreams, people are not free. And when I see that people are not free, that tells me that there's a management tone at the top that is imprisoning them, or pimping them out, or forcing them to worship them. That's all part of what we do in that type of analysis. Hey, y'all, while I'm doing this last few minutes of talk, give me some songs y'all want me to hear, because we're going to go out to a good song. We started off with the motivation from our brother Denzel Washington, but I want to go out with a good song. So give me some ideas. Let me see if something resonates with me as you're thinking about what is your tone at the top of your organization. Somebody literally just texted me, look, y'all, I'm in front of my Roger Carter painting, and it's got Pam Grier. she got the gun. You got Harriet Tubman here. You got Shadow. Let me show y'all why y'all putting that song. There's Shadow in there. You got you can't see it, but there's Venus and Serena Williams on there. There's Angela Davis there. So I love art. I'm an art collector, just in case y'all don't know that, but I collect art. I love, love, love art. Don't take me to an art store, because I'm like, I got to get up out of there. I start shaking and fiending like a dope fiend, like, Somebody said they want to hear Respect. Okay, we can do that. Respect. Our Auntie Riri, you know, my family last name is Franklin, and she's a distant relative. That's Auntie Riri to me. I love her. Anyway, so yeah, how about that? Respect with Aretha Franklin. That's what we're going to go out on. I love Auntie Ree. So anyway, I want y'all to think about that. And it's so appropriate, Freedom Justice. Thank you for suggesting that. The reason why it's important is because part of our respecting ourselves is respecting the tone at the top. Baby, I got it. Okay, Brother Jamil, I missed that. Oh, you right, Aletha. Respect from Norman J would have been good, but that's okay. We got the original going here now. That's how we're going to go out. Anyway, go out there, y'all. Go to sajdahhouse.com. Get your commemorative Elijah coin. Put in the discount code HEM4847. Listen, I'm going to tell y'all like Sabrina Cain tells her followers, don't chip and dip me. You done came on here, you done had good conversation, you done got some motivation. People charge for this type of work, okay? I done got up, put in work. At least get you a coin. At least share the information. Follow me, put a comment in the chat, but don't chip and dip me. I'm going to start using that. You done had good conversation, good motivation. You done walked away with some words of wisdom that will help take your life to the next level. Least you can do is get a coin. Because if you came to a seminar, some of y'all come here every week, and if you went to a seminar every week, you'd pay more than $375. Let me tell you that right now. So if you don't got $375, at least share this, put something in the chat, go out to hit the link in the bio, give a $10 donation, a $5 donation, but don't chip and dip me. All right, y'all. Put some words in the chat. Make this a great Saturday. I appreciate y'all. Share my post with your followers that I was hacked, and go out there and make it a great and beautiful day. I appreciate you. I thank you all. And don't chip and dip me. Peace and blessings.